Rain fell hard on the old streets of Pine Ridge as 16-year-old Jed huddled under the highway bridge. The cold drops hit the concrete above with a steady drum drum drum. 3 months of living on the streets had taught Jed how to hide in plain sight. He knew how to walk through crowds without being seen. He knew how to find food in trash cans behind restaurants, and he knew that this spot, this small dry patch under Bridge 41, was the safest place to sleep. The wind pushed wet air under his thin jacket as car lights flashed by. Overhead, each pair of headlights lit up his small camp for just a second. A flattened cardboard box, a torn blue sleeping bag, and a backpack with broken zippers. Jed pulled the backpack closer to his chest. Inside was everything he owned. 2 t-shirts, 1 pair of jeans, a half-empty water bottle, and the small plastic box that held his most precious thing. Not much of a home, but it's mine, Jed whispered to himself, his breath making small clouds in the cold air. His fingers, red from the cold, reached into the backpack and pulled out the plastic box. Inside was a worn photograph of a woman with Jed's same green eyes and wide smile. Her hair was pulled back, and she wore a waitress uniform from Joe's Diner. "Hi, Mom," he said softly, running his thumb over her face. "It's raining again tonight, but I'm okay. I promise." The thunder boomed above, making Jed jump. He carefully put the photo back in its box and tucked it deep in his backpack. 3 foster homes in 2 years had taught him to keep what mattered most hidden and safe. The last home, with the Millers and their mean son, who stole Jed's things, had been the final straw. Running away felt scary, but staying felt worse. Jed pulled his sleeping bag up to his chin. The cardboard underneath didn't stop the cold from the ground, but it was better than nothing. As cars zoomed by overhead, their noise blended with the rain to make a lullaby that finally helped him sleep. Morning came with weak sunlight fighting through gray clouds. Jed's bones ached as he rolled up his sleeping bag and stuffed it into his backpack. His stomach growled, reminding him that he hadn't eaten since yesterday's half sandwich from the church food line. Lake day, he said to himself. Tuesdays and Fridays were lake days. That's when people came to fish or walk their dogs around Lake Westwood, and where Jed could collect cans and bottles for recycling money. Sometimes, if he was lucky, fishermen would give him their extra sandwiches or chips. Jed walked the 3 miles to Lake Westwood, his shoes squelching with each step. The rain had stopped, but puddles filled every crack in the sidewalk. His wet socks made his feet feel like blocks of ice, but he kept walking. The lake came into view as Jed rounded the bend in the road. Even on this cloudy day, the water looked peaceful. Ducks paddled near the shore, and a few early morning fishermen sat in folding chairs with their lines cast into the deep water. Jed spotted the blue recycling bins near the parking lot and headed that way. He pulled his small collection bag from his backpack and began his rounds, picking up cans and bottles left behind. 6 cans meant $1 at the recycling center. $1 meant a burger from the dollar menu. Jed's mouth watered at the thought. As he worked his way around the shore, he watched a red pickup truck pull into the boat launch area. A big man with a leather jacket got out, followed by a small boy about 8 years old. The boy jumped excitedly as his dad unloaded fishing gear. Jed looked away quickly. He'd learned that watching people too long made them notice you, and being noticed often meant being chased away. He turned his attention back to the ground, searching for the glint of aluminum among the rocks and sand, unaware that in just minutes his entire life would change forever. A loud screech made Jed look up from his can collecting. The red pickup truck was sliding down the boat ramp, its tires spinning on the wet concrete. The big man in the leather jacket was running after it, yelling words Jed couldn't hear, but Jed could see the little boy's face pressed against the passenger window, his mouth open in a scream no one could hear. The truck hit the water with a huge splash. For 1 second, it seemed to float, and then the front end started to sink. Water rushed in through the open driver's side window. The boy inside was pounding on the glass, his face pale with fear. Without thinking, Jed dropped his bag of cans and ran. His worn sneakers slapped against the wet ground as he sprinted toward the water. Behind him, people were shouting. The man in the leather jacket was trying to pull off his boots, but Jed was already diving into the lake. The cold hit him like a punch. The water was so much colder than he expected, and for a moment he couldn't breathe. But then he saw the truck, now half underwater, and the boy's frightened face. Jed swam hard, pushing against the weight of his clothes. When he reached the truck, the water was up to the boy's chest inside the cab. The passenger window was rolled down just a few inches at the top. Jed grabbed the edge and pulled, but it wouldn't move. "Cover your face," Jed shouted. The boy nodded and put his hands over his eyes. Jed made a fist and hit the glass as hard as he could. Pain shot through his hand, but the window cracked. He hit it again, and this time it broke. Quickly, he cleared the sharp pieces away and reached inside. "Take my hand," he said. The boy grabbed Jed's hand with both of his. The water was rising fast, now almost to the boy's neck. Jed pulled hard, and the small body slid through the window opening. Just as the boy's feet cleared the window, the truck sank completely under the water. Jed held the boy with one arm and swam with the other. His clothes felt so heavy and his muscles burned. The shore seemed miles away. The boy was coughing and crying, but he held on tight around Jed's neck. When they finally reached the shore, hands reached down to pull them up. Jed fell onto his hands and knees, coughing up lake water. His whole body shook from the cold and the effort. "Tyler, Tyler." The man in the leather jacket pushed through the crowd and grabbed the little boy, hugging him so tight it looked like it might hurt. But the boy just cried and clung to his dad. When the man looked up, his face was wet with tears. "You saved my son," he said to Jed, his voice breaking. "You saved my boy." Jed noticed patches on the man's leather jacket now. They said Hell's Angels and Vice President. More people gathered around. Someone put a blanket over Jed's shoulders. Someone else was talking about calling 911. Jed's teeth chattered as he tried to stand up. "What's your name, kid?" the biker asked, still holding his son tight. "Jed," he managed to say through chattering teeth. "I'm Ray. This is Tyler. I owe you everything, Jed. Everything." The sound of sirens filled the air. An ambulance and police cars pulled into the parking lot. Jed looked around nervously. Police meant questions. Questions about why he wasn't in school, where his parents were, why he was alone. As people turned to look at the arriving ambulance, Jed slipped away. He grabbed his backpack from where he'd left it and disappeared into the trees. Behind him, he could hear Rai calling his name, but he didn't look back. His heart pounded in his chest, partly from the rescue, partly from fear. He'd saved a life today, but now he needed to save himself. 2 days passed since the lake rescue. Jed had moved his sleeping spot to an old drainage pipe at the edge of town. The pipe was just wide enough for him to crawl inside with his backpack and sleeping bag. It smelled like wet dirt, but at least no one would find him here. His hand still hurt from punching the car window. The skin across his knuckles was torn and puffy. He hadn't eaten much since the rescue, just half a bagel he found in a park trash can and some crackers a kind lady at the gas station gave him. Sleep came hard that night. Every time Jed closed his eyes, he saw the little boy's scared face inside the sinking truck. He wondered if the boy was okay. He wondered if the dad Ray was mad that Jed had run away without saying goodbye. The rumble woke him just after sunrise. At first, Jed thought it was thunder. But the sound kept growing louder and steadier until the ground under his sleeping bag seemed to shake. Carefully, Jed crawled to the end of the pipe and peeked out. His heart jumped into his throat. Motorcycles, at least 20 of them, all lined up on the dirt road near the drainage field. Men in leather jackets were walking around, looking behind Bushes and calling something Jed couldn't hear. They were looking for someone. They were looking for him. Jed pulled back into the pipe, his heart beating so fast it hurt. Did they want to hurt him for running away? Did they think he stole something? He hugged his backpack to his chest and tried to make himself as small as possible. Heavy footsteps crunched on the gravel. Outside the pipe, a shadow fell across the opening. "Hey," a deep voice called. "Anyone in there?" Jed held his breath. Maybe they would go away if he stayed quiet. "Listen, if you're in there, we just want to talk. I'm Rye from the lake. You saved my boy, Tyler." It was the dad from the truck. Jed still didn't move. "We've been looking all over town for you, kid. Tyler's been asking about you. Wants to thank you properly." Ray's voice got softer. "I want to thank you, too." Slowly, Jed crawled toward the opening of the pipe. Rye stepped back, giving him space to climb out. In the early morning light, Jed could see all the bikers clearly now. Some had gray beards. Some had tattoos covering their arms. All of them wore leather vests with patches. They watched Jed with serious faces. "There he is," someone shouted. "The hero." To Jed's surprise, the men broke into smiles and cheers. One big man with a long beard stepped forward. "This the kid who saved little Tyler. Damn, son, you got guts." Ray put his hand on Jed's shoulder. "Been looking for you for 2 days straight. Tyler told us you punched out the window with your bare hand." He pointed to Jed's swollen knuckles. "That looks bad. You should see a doctor." Jed shook his head. "No doctors," he said quickly. "I'm fine." Ray looked at him for a long moment. "You got somewhere to stay, kid. Parents waiting for you somewhere." Jed looked at his feet. His stomach growled loudly in the quiet morning air. "That's what I thought," Ray said. "Look, I owe you more than I can ever repay. My boy is everything to me." He cleared his throat. "I got a spare room above my garage. I own Pine Ridge Auto Shop in town. Could use a helper around the place." Jed looked up, not sure he heard. "Right, you want me to stay with you?" Ray nodded. "Got food, hot water, clean bed. No strings attached. You saved my boy's life. Let me help you now." The other bikers nodded in agreement. One woman with gray hair braided down her back stepped forward. "We take care of our own," she said. "And anyone who saves one of our kids is family." Jed looked from face to face. These sterile-looking people with their leather and tattoos had kind eyes. For the first time in months, he felt a tiny spark of hope light up inside him. 3 months passed faster than Jed could be. Jaded. The room above Ray's garage became his home. It wasn't big, just a bed, a dresser, and a small desk. But it was clean and warm and dry. Every morning, Jed woke up to the sound of birds instead of traffic. Every night, he slept on a real mattress instead of cardboard. At first, Jed kept waiting for Rai to change his mind. He kept his backpack packed and ready by the door. But days turned into weeks, and Ray never told him to leave. Instead, Rai taught him how to fix cars at the auto shop. He made sure Jed had 3 meals a day. He even helped Jed sign up for school again. "You're smart, kid," Rai would say, as Jed quickly learned how to change oil or fix a flat tire. "You could run your own shop someday." Tyler, the boy from the truck, visited the shop after school most days. He followed Jed around like a shadow, asking questions and helping hand over tools. "You're my best friend," Tyler told Jed one day. "Dad says you're my guardian angel." The biggest surprise came when Ray told Jed about the Hells Angels summer rally. All the chapters from the whole state get together. Big party, bike show, the works. "This year, we got something special planned." The day of the rally, Jed stood nervously in Ray's living room. Rai handed him a small box wrapped in newspaper. "Open it," Rai said. Inside was a black leather jacket just like the ones the bikers wore. It smelled new and felt soft in Jed's hands. When he turned it around, he saw a small patch sewn onto the back that read, "Family. Forever." Put it on, Rice said, his voice rough with fudong. It's yours. The jacket fit perfectly. Rice smiled and put his arm around Jed's shoulders. Come on, they're waiting for us. At the rally, 167 bikers from all over the state gathered in a huge circle. Their motorcycles gleamed in the sun. The air smelled like barbecue and gasoline. Music played from big speakers. And people laughed and talked all around. When Ray and Jed walked into the circle, the crowd went quiet. A big man with a white beard stepped forward. Jed recognized him as the president of Ray's chapter. Brothers and sisters, the man said in a booming voice. Today, we welcome a new member to our family. This young man saved one of our own, showing courage beyond his years. The president turned to Jed. In the 3 months you've been with Ray, you've proven yourself to be loyal, hardworking, and true. Today, we make it official. Your family now, son. Forever. The crowd erupted in cheers. Bikers came forward one by one to shake Jed's hand or give him a hug. Some of the toughest-looking men had tears in their eyes. 2 years later, Jed stood in front of the mirror in his room, hardly able to be Jaded, the person looking back. The skinny, scared boy from under the bridge was gone. In his place stood a young man in a graduation cap and gown, with a letter of acceptance to the state college in his pocket. Ray knocked on the door. Ready, kid, we got a surprise for you. Outside, Jed followed Ray downstairs and out the front door. His breath caught in his throat. Lining the entire street were motorcycles. Hundreds of them. Every Hell's Angels member who had met Jed over the past 2 years had come to see him graduate. As Jed walked toward Ray's truck, the bikers started their engines all at once. The roar was deafening, a thunderous cheer of metal and power.